Uh, our recording. Was everybody able to exchange contact information? Because you don't have a lot of time, all right, before your presentation, so you want to have that knocked out. So let's jump into it. Who would like to share what was discussed in your breakout rooms? Diana, what was discussed in your breakout room? Diana Ramos.
Oh, sorry, I'm right here.
So what was discussed in your breakout room?
Well, we talked about the difference between the violence, like and self-defense.
Okay, so what's the difference? So Diana, what's the difference between violence and self-defense?
Like getting like protecting yourself, and then like violence, like purposely like trying to hurt someone else. Like I don't remember the exact like definition of the reading though.
Okay. Khalil, what was discussed in your breakout room? Khalil Simmons. Anybody else? What was
I could go.
Okay.
I go, Professor. I was actually discussing how, because we were also partnered up with Group A, and they were on a different reading because we messed up. So, but I remember you were talking about how we should have read this one before we read James Baldwin, and it kind of makes sense because reading this, the way Huey P. Newman puts it, is very. I was actually really angry. I started feeling like very like trapped. I felt like an idiot. I felt like the way he addresses the problems, like the way he literally starts off by first stating how they want to leave, like they were being colonized, or they felt they were being colonized, by England or whatever under that. And then that's how they broke away and they uh, created the Constitution. And then I love how he starts off with that, and then he kind of just slowly relates it into like, okay, well, that's what they did, right? If you're not happy with whatever government's governing you, you retaliate, or you take it apart and you repair it. And he really does a lot of connections to structure when it comes to either like a vehicle, like a car, or when he talks about geometrical shapes like a triangle. Towards the end when he's talking about the impeccables, which I was supposed to look up what that meant, but I just thought it meant like, the average people, like not, part of the political party. um but yeah, he actually just structures everything out, and you kind of feel like, like he actually like speaks the truth, and like it really makes you want to, if you're really not happy with it, you have every right to stand up for what you believe in, and change that. If they did that before, you have the right to do it as well. And he also adds like the Malcolm X part in his thing. I was kind of confused about that. I didn't know what he was trying to say. I think what he was trying to say is that Malcolm X was part of that triangle that he was talking about, and how it backfired on him because not backfired on him, but he couldn't accomplish it because he was denied by guns. And he's saying, like weaponizing and arming yourself is very important. And I'm myself a gun nut, I guess. I just believe in like protecting yourself and stuff like that. And people always ask me like, "Oh, why do you believe in guns? Like hurts people, whatever." But this proved like a case where it actually is like, hey, you know what? I mean, if there was a civil war, and if if they're trying to attack every other African country, they would not be able to sustain, like. So I just feel like, yeah, there's like a lot of bullshit going on. And yeah, it just kind of, I don't know, it really affected me. The writing, the way he puts it's very inspirational in a sense, to get up and do something about it. But yeah.
And I think, Carney, the inspiration is because it's so matter of fact, right? So it's like, if 2 and 2 makes 4, here you go. And it's done in a way that's almost hard to argue against or hard to paint it as irrational.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. I'm trying to move quickly for the sake of time, so that way we have time for the fishbowl. But the speech is pulled from this book here, the Huey P. Newton Reader, which is a collection of speeches and essays by Dr. Huey P. Newton, because he does hold a PhD. In fact, if anyone wants to just have some really good reading, his dissertation is brilliant. So he states that, men were not created to obey laws. Laws were created to obey men, right? But then he kind of problematizes this and complicates it by asking, what men do certain laws are supposed to obey, right? And he says like the poor is kind of extracted from the having to shape laws, right? But he says they should have the right to cultivate laws that speak to their situation and that allows them to overcome their hardships, right? As Carney points out, he uses the Declaration of Independence as an argumentative tool, saying if this piece of paper, which is almost viewed as legislation, allows for the advocating of your freedom and your independence, why are we not included into this process, right? How come Black folks don't have the ability to advocate and jockey for their independence and freedom according to the Constitution? Very interesting claim that's made, right? He says that Black folks are the only people in the world that can stop the war machine due to their intimacy with the war machine. For the sake of time, I'm going to put that on pause. So if we have time, I want to come back to that and see what you all feel about Black folks being the only one who could stifle the war machine. Let me see. He also positions America as a colony and African Americans or Africans in America as colonized entities within this colony, right? And this does a phenomenal job of linking our struggle here within the United States to the struggles of our brothers and sisters across the Atlantic and throughout the diaspora, right? Because at the time that this is being written, Africa is experiencing anti-colonial liberation movements. And he wants to attach these anti-colonial liberation movements to what's going on for African folks inside the Americas, right? He says, Black folks have been positioned to understand that violence against the oppressor should be avoided at all costs, right? And they want to kind of mitigate or dictate how Black folks should go about advocating for their freedom, right? And one of the ways that you cannot do that is engaging in acts of violence. He says that Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X were 2 Black men of the 20th century who possessed an impeccable challenge to both the oppressor and the endorsed spokesman. So this idea of the endorsed spokesman is really at the fore of Huey P. Newton's thoughts within these 2 addresses. The reason being, because he thinks of these oppressor spokesmen as individuals who are doing damaging work to the community because they're not painting an accurate picture of the power relations between the oppressed and the oppressor, right? They seek to paint out a picture that's not as damaging as it paints the relations between Black and white, if you will, right? So he says that the endorsed spokesman also needs to be accounted for, just as the oppressor himself should be accounted for. And then he likens himself to the heirs of Malcolm X, right? They're the ones who are carrying on the work of Malcolm, and they're listening to his message and enacting his message in a way that they weren't able to do in the past, right? Or Malcolm was kind of cut short in his attempts to manifest these things. So I'm going to end my notes there so we can transition into our fishbowl. This is the last fishbowl of the semester. So if you have not gone twice, today you definitely want to kind of get something on the books. Is there anyone who would like to volunteer to fishbowl?
Can I volunteer?
We have Natalie. Who
I
else?
Me
volunteered
too.
too.
Ooh, I'm sorry, it's too many. One at a time. Say it again. Who was that? Australia? I know.
Yes.
And who else was
I
that?
also want to go.
Cassandra.
Me too, Professor.
And who said me too? I'm sorry.
Aldo.
Aldo. Okay. Cassandra. Aldo. Does anyone else need to go to get their participation points?
Can I go too?
Yep. Michelle. Nat and Yale, have you done your fish bowls for the semester?
No, I wanted to talk to you after class. Is that okay, mister?
Yeah. Just so you know, this is the last day of the fish bowl. So if you don't have any fish bowls, you will not get participation points. All right. So we have
Professor?
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I think I have 2 fish bowls.
Okay, you want to do one just in case?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. All right, so we have Natalie, Australia, Cassandra, Aldo, Michelle, and Alfonso. Whoever wants to start it off, it's on you.
Can I go first?
Yeah.
Okay. So I just wanted to start off by like literally the beginning when I read this sentence. Rewriting unjust laws is a basic human right and fundamental obligation. I like instantly thought of Malcolm X and how like I related it to him before even like realizing that at the end he was gonna be mentioned. And I just wanted to say how like when I did that, when I joined that Zoom meeting, you said how like I said that he was like about the civil rights leader, and how you mentioned that he's not really a civil rights leader. He's more of just like that human basic rights leader. And I feel like this whole article or essay, whatever you want to call it, is basically about Black people and their freedom and their basic human rights. And I feel like we connecting it back to today, like Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, we talked about how they were taken away from those basic human rights. And I feel like this article really goes into depth about that, and it made a good connection to Malcolm X like instantly when I first started reading it.
Yeah. Thank you, Natalie. It's perfect. Spot on. Who's next?
I can go.
Okay.
What I got from this whole article or journal is that no matter what, the rules that apply to Black people don't apply to other people. Like no matter what, other people are gonna get away with things, which in reality, Black people never will. Because they're always like treated differently. And that's why with the gun violence, like if even to this day, if Black people have something and another white person does, or any other race, they really won't have any consequences that Black people will.
Yeah. Can't argue with that, Cassandra. Thank you. Who's next?
Professor, I'd like to reflect on the quote that you said about how laws were established by men and they should serve men. And the laws and rules usually affect poor people and prevent them from functioning in society. Building up on that, I do agree that, you know, even if there are laws meant for helping people, they don't apply to everyone. For example, like if police pull someone over, and I don't know, if they see something as suspicious, like as getting their driver's license from their pockets, they instantly feel threatened. As compared to a white person, you know, they allow them to get away with so many things. And that's basically what this quote is saying too, that they usually, the laws are only meant for a certain group of people, not everyone.
Who's next?
I could go next. I'm gonna read off what I wrote down.
Okay.
So the first quote that took my attention was men were not created in order to obey laws. Laws were created to obey men, because without these laws, believe society like would not even function right. And I also wrote down we have a human right to we have a human right to rewrite unjust laws. The Declaration of Independence states that the people have the right to alter or abolish a unjust government. United States in the article is referred to as imperialistic war machine. The oppression of blacks in United States provide the fuel for the country for enslaving other people of the world. Black people in America have been brainwashed to believe that they are powerless. If all black people were to unite, they would have the strength to smash injustice. Another quote that took my attention was an unarmed people are slaves or are subject to slavery at any given moment. And the government is scared of its people and don't want them to rebel. That's what I wrote down.
Perfect. Thank you, Alfonso. Who's next?
I can go.
Okay.
The quote that resonated with me was from May 2. I think I'm saying that. And then it said, "We are advocates of the abolition of war. We do not want war, but war can only be abolished through war. And in order to get rid of the gun, it is necessary to take up the gun." And I think that resonates with the movements going on now. Many people think that the BLM movements that are being done right now are too violent or can be handled a different way. But like this quote really shows how there's no other way to get results without not inciting violence, but I guess to make yourself like present in the moment.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think Michelle is the last one.
So in the reading, it tells us that the African Americans believed that they were the only people that could like free the world and destroy a war machine that they were talking about, which basically would represent like how the enslaving of the world, in which the enslavement was like the engine of the machine, and how African Americans were like the oil to it to make it function, and how without them it just wouldn't work. And so basically, if they would fight against the slavery, the machine would just break down since it wouldn't have its oil to function. And they were brainwashed to believe that they had no power to basically fight against the slavery, but they were the only ones that could help themselves out of the situation. And so they were like, they could outnumber the slave masters, and the power that they had was, it just depended on how people would submission themselves to the slave masters, and if they would have united, the strength together could, demolish the injustice from the whites. And yeah.
Actually, thank you, Michelle, because that's a great segue to how I would like to close out the class, right? So this idea that Black folks are the only people who could impede or dismantle the war machine that's the Western world. What do y'all think about that? Because to me, it's twofold, right? One, it places a lot of pressure on Black folks to do that, right? If we're the only people who could do this. And then two, I think it absolves a lot of pressure from non-Black folks to be accountable for the society that is anti-Black and anti-people of culture, right? So my question to you is, what do y'all think about this? Do you agree with Newton's claim that Black folks are the only people who could dismantle the war machine, or do you agree with it? What are your thoughts?
I would like to go first. I do believe that, not in like a way of like it's only up to them. Of course, others other people could help, of course, I mean, the more we come, I think the key word here is unity, like legit unity, you know. Now I'm not marking anybody out of it. And I think there has to be some sort of unity that actually comes over and helps in this sort of evolution of civilization to get past all these, you know, I mean, history is just not necessarily repeating itself, but it is, because it's just a continuation, you know, like they've been doing this for years and it's still going on. It's literally 2022, and like, how is this still possible? Are we getting smarter? I feel like we're not going anywhere. And I really think they do possess that power. If they do, I mean, he explains it clearly, you know, the slave masters are outnumbered. Um, and he also talks about I want to relate the Sokofa movie. You know how the slave master literally hires or tells one of the slaves to kind of like control the other slaves, and that goes into his like little triangle of power, and that's how they've been like controlling the people. You know, even when they're like, "Oh, you're free," but you're not, and it's delegated in that sense. And I really think that there needs to be a hardcore, even honestly a forceful like unity, where it's just kind of like a culture needs to develop by coming together as one and moving as one. when when a culture is broken into pieces and now they're attacking each other, where black on black crime comes from, you know, like that just helps the people in power stay there and sit back and literally watch it happen, where, you know, instead of killing each other, getting together and actually attacking the real threat in life, you know, that's that's a lot harder, and that does seem very far-fetched, but that is the ultimate goal that we need to see be done in order for us to move on in society.
And if I could offer this in closing, and this is really for those who are choosing gang culture for your presentation, right? Think about this. If every gang in America was politicized and organized to where if violence is enacted on the Black community, the gangs are positioned to respond in kind, right? So for example, Trayvon Martin situations happens, right? And we know we did not receive justice from the legal system, right? So we organized the gangs in South Florida to go ahead and get justice for Trayvon's killer, right? So this is, to me, a reimagining on gang culture that could allow it to be a organization that's not a pariah on the African community, but it's something that works in tandem to bring justice to the Black community, right? I know we won't be able to cover the gang culture segment because we just ran out of time this semester, but there is the documentary posted. So for those who have the gang culture topic, because we did not cover it in class, I suggest you watch that documentary. It's called Bastards of the Party, and it talks about how gangs are by literally, right? Like literally extensions of the Black Panther Party, right? They're the offshoots of the Black Panther Party without the guidance, because those who are in the Black Panther parties who are supposed to give guidance to the gang members are either dead or in jail because of their activities, right? So I just want to throw that out there for those who are in the gang culture group, so that way you have some kind of grounds to work on. And then if you need more information, please contact me. I can kind of help point you in the right direction. But I think that documentary that's posted on Google Classroom will give you a great grounding on how to perceive gang culture as it pertains to presenting it in the for your final project. Okay, so we're gonna end class. There's no, of course, there's no reading material. I just asking that you all dedicate your time to your projects. Next Monday for group A, you'll be presenting. Next Wednesday for group B, you'll presenting. And then whoever does not go on those dates will present on the day of the final. So just be prepared for that. Do not hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. other than that, you all, I enjoyed what we've done so far. I'm looking forward to hearing us switch roles, right? So now you will be the educator, I'll be the student, so to speak, and I'll be learning from you all. So yeah, reach out to me if you need anything. Be healthy, be wealthy, be wise, get your exercise, vitamin D, and water, and I will see you all next week. Peace.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Connie.
Do you have a minute, Professor?
Yeah, give me 1 second, Lee. I know Danielle has a question, and then I'll jump right to you, okay? So bear with me. Anyone else have any questions? Oh, thank you, Natalie.
I can go after him, sir.
Okay. Actually, so Lee, if you want to go first, is it a private question? Is something that you just want to speak to me about?
It might take like a minute or two, so why don't you go first, actually?
Okay. Before Lee or Danielle, how about Khalil, Cole in Australia? Do you have questions?
I was just asking, I was just seeing where like a good resource for finding out about gang culture would be, because I know it's a lot of stuff I'm gonna read about is like painted from a like white supremacy point of view.
Do you have access to that documentary that's on Google Classroom?
I think the link is gone. It's on the same, it's under week 9 through 12, right?
Yeah, if not, I'll send it to you.
But I found it elsewhere. So yeah.
Okay.
That's good. That's a good place.
That's the best one, Cole. Like to me, and it is dope because it's actually a documentary by somebody who was in a gang and kind of been reformed and put this out to bring attention to it. So it's an honest depiction of gang culture. So I think that's like the best resource.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome, man.
Bye.
Have a good one.
You too.
Australia, yes, please get that in as soon as possible, please. You will be docked points, but please get that in as soon as you can, okay? Khalil, did you have a question? All right, so I'm gonna remove Khalil. Okay. So Nanya, is your question, do you want to have it in person? I mean, sorry, is it personal, or are you okay with Lee being on the call too?
Oh no, it's personal.
Okay, let me Lee, I'm gonna put you in the waiting room and then I'll bring you back when I'm done with Nanya, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Oh shit. My fault, I put the wrong one. Hold on. Okay. All right. What's going on, man?
Hello, Professor. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How about you?
I'm doing good too, Professor. I had my question was about the Google Classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't been able to join classes for all of my classes, and right now I've just been making up all my work for my other classes, and then for this class, when I went on to Google Classroom yesterday, I couldn't find anything on Google Classroom.
Okay. Give me 1 second. I'll re-invite you. Bear with me. And then you also need to choose a group topic for your group project, because that's going to be due this week.
Is it individual, an individual one, or a group one?
It's a group project.
Okay.
So here's the link to Google Classroom. I'll let you make up the work, but you will, you'll get reduced points for what you turn in.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I've been going through a family emergency.
Okay. Everything okay?
For me, yeah, but it's just my family's just it's crazy right now.
Yeah.
Like it's still not okay, but at this point, since school's ending, there's literally nothing I can do